Single dad janitor, fixed the CEO's childhood piano. She couldn't stop staring at him when he played. But what she didn't know was that every note carried a secret that could tear her entire world apart. Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows through the towering windows of Whitmore Enterprises, painting streaks of amber across the pristine marble floors. Ethan Cole's mop moved in slow, methodical strokes, his shoulders heavy after a long day of work. The cleaning cart squeaked beside him as he worked his way through the executive floor, past rows of empty offices where important people made important decisions all day. His hands ached, but he kept going. Lily would need dinner soon, and he couldn't afford to be late picking her up from the after-school program again. The thought of his daughter's smile gave him the energy for one final push. As he approached the CEO's private lounge, something caught his eye. In the corner, partially hidden behind expensive leather furniture, stood a grand piano. It was a beautiful instrument, even under its layer of dust, rich mahogany wood with intricate carvings along its legs, but it looked forgotten, like a painting turned to face the wall. Ethan's fingers twitched. He hadn't touched a piano in months, not since the community center where he used to practice had closed down. Setting his mop aside, he approached the instrument carefully, as if it might disappear like a mirage. He lifted the fallboard, revealing ivory keys that had yellowed slightly with age. His trained ear caught the subtle discord as he pressed a few notes. It needed tuning but wasn't too far gone. From his years of maintaining his own second-hand upright piano, he knew exactly what to do. Glancing at his watch, Ethan hesitated. He still had 20 minutes before he needed to leave. The floor was empty. Everyone had gone home, except for a few workaholics locked away in distant offices. Reaching into his cleaning cart, he pulled out a small toolkit he always carried, force of habit from years of fixing things that broke at home. With gentle, practiced movements, he adjusted a few strings, his fingers remembering the precise tension needed. Each small turn brought the notes closer to true, like focusing a blurry photograph. The piano seemed to wake up under his touch, responding to his care with increasingly clear tones. Finally satisfied, Ethan settled onto the bench. The leather was soft, expensive, probably worth more than his monthly rent. He closed his eyes, letting his hands hover over the keys. The melody came to him naturally, a piece he had composed during the dark days after Sarah's passing. It started soft, hesitant, like early morning rain, then built slowly into something more hopeful. The music filled the empty hallways, bouncing off marble and glass, transforming the cold corporate space into something warmer, more human. Ethan lost himself in the familiar rhythm, his work-worn hands moving with surprising grace across the keys. Each note carried a piece of his story. The grief of losing Sarah, the joy of raising Lily, the struggle of making ends meet, and the quiet dignity of doing honest work. He didn't just play the piano, he spoke through it. The melody swelled and ebbed like a tide of emotions he usually kept carefully contained. In these precious moments, he wasn't just a janitor pushing a mop, he was a musician again, creating something beautiful in an unexpected place. The last notes hung in the air like autumn leaves reluctant to fall. Ethan opened his eyes, ready to return to his routine, when a soft gasp broke the silence. There in the doorway stood Claire Whitmore herself, the CEO whose name graced the building. Her tailored suit and perfect posture screamed authority, but her expression was anything but stern. She looked shocked, almost vulnerable, her usual mask of corporate confidence cracked by surprise. "That's my piano," she whispered, her voice barely audible in the quiet room. Ethan's heart stopped. He stood quickly, nearly knocking over the bench. His hands, so confident on the keys moments ago, now fumbled with his cleaning cart. "I'm sorry, Miss Whitmore. I shouldn't have—" But Claire Whitmore wasn't looking at him. Her eyes were fixed on the piano, and in them, Ethan saw something he never expected to see in the face of Whitmore Enterprises' infamous Ice Queen, tears. The melody hung in the air like a fragile crystal, delicate and pure, until Claire's whispered words shattered it. "That's my piano." Ethan's hands jerked away from the keys as if burned. He spun around, his face flushing deep red as he came face to face with Claire Whitmore, the CEO of Whitmore Enterprises. She stood in the doorway, her tailored charcoal suit as crisp as ever, but her usual mask of cool professionalism had cracked. Her eyes were wide, fixed on the piano behind him. "Miss Whitmore, I'm so sorry," Ethan stammered, taking a step back. "I know I shouldn't have—" "Who gave you permission to touch it?" Her voice was tight, controlled, but there was something else beneath the surface, not anger, but something more complex. She moved into the room with measured steps, her heels clicking against the marble floor. Ethan's hands fidgeted with his worn uniform. "No one, ma'am. I was cleaning, and I noticed it was out of tune. I couldn't help myself. I'm sorry." Claire's fingers trailed along the piano's dusty surface, leaving a clean line in their wake. "You know about pianos?" "Yes, ma'am. I grew up fixing them." Ethan's voice grew steadier as he spoke about something familiar. "My dad ran a small music shop. We couldn't afford new instruments, so we learned to repair old ones. It became second nature." Claire's expression shifted slightly. She looked at the piano, really looked at it, perhaps for the first time in years. The ivory keys had yellowed with age, and a fine layer of dust covered everything except where Ethan's hands had been. "This piano," she said, her voice softer now, "was my mother's last gift to me, before she passed." Ethan's embarrassment gave way to understanding. No wonder she'd reacted so strongly. "It's a beautiful instrument," he said quietly. "The tone is still rich, even after all this time. Someone loved it very much." Claire's hand rested on the piano's surface, and for a moment she seemed lost in thought. "She taught me to play. Hours every day right up until—" She caught herself, straightening her shoulders. "But that was a long time ago." "The action in the keys is still good," Ethan said, professional interest overtaking his nervousness. "It mainly needs tuning, and the damper felts could use some attention. The soundboard seems solid, though." Claire looked at him with new interest. "You could tell all that just from playing it for a few minutes?" "Yes, ma'am. When you've worked with pianos as long as I have, you can feel what they need." He gestured to one of the keys. "See how this one has a slightly different resistance? That's from the felt wearing unevenly," Claire finished, surprising him. She pressed the key gently, and a soft note rang out. "Mother always said this one was stubborn." Their eyes met, and something shifted in the room's atmosphere. For a moment, they weren't CEO and janitor, they were just two people who understood the language of music. "Do you still play?" Ethan asked before he could stop himself. A shadow passed over Claire's face. "No, not anymore." She ran her fingers along the keys without pressing them. "There never seems to be time." Ethan nodded, understanding all too well how life could push aside the things we love. He thought of his own piano at home, how he only got to play late at night after Lily was asleep. Claire stepped back from the piano, and Ethan prepared himself for dismissal, maybe worse. But when she spoke, her voice had lost its earlier edge. "Fix it." Ethan blinked. "I'm sorry?" "The piano. Fix it." She met his eyes directly. "I'll pay you extra, of course." Ethan stood there, momentarily speechless. Of all the ways he'd imagined this encounter ending, this hadn't been one of them. "Are you sure? You clearly know what you're doing." She glanced at the piano again. "And it deserves to be played." Ethan nodded slowly, still processing this turn of events. "Yes, ma'am, I can do that." "Good." Claire smoothed her already perfect jacket, her business demeanor returning like a familiar shield. "Let me know what supplies you need. I'll have accounting take care of it." Ethan's footsteps echoed through the dimly lit hallway of the apartment building as he climbed the worn stairs to Mrs. Rodriguez's place on the third floor. His shoulders ached from the day's work, but a smile tugged at his lips as he thought about the grand piano. The memory of those pristine keys under his fingers felt like a dream now. He knocked gently on apartment 3C, and almost immediately, the door flew open. Lily burst out, her backpack bouncing against her back as she launched herself into his arms. "Daddy!" Ethan caught her with practiced ease, hugging her close. The familiar scent of strawberry shampoo and grape juice filled his nose. "Hey, sweetheart, did you have a good day?" Mrs. Rodriguez appeared in the doorway, her kind face wrinkled with a warm smile. "She finished all her homework and helped me water my plants." "Thank you so much for watching her, Mrs. R," Ethan said, setting Lily down but keeping hold of her small hand. "I really appreciate it." "Any time, dear. You know that." She waved them off with weathered hands that had helped raise half the children in the building. Back in their apartment 2 floors down, Ethan flicked on the lights. The space was small but tidy. He'd made sure of that before leaving for work this morning. The living room doubled as Lily's homework area, with her colored pencils still scattered on the coffee table from yesterday. "What should we make for dinner, Princess?" Ethan asked, hanging up their coats. Lily hopped onto one of the mismatched kitchen chairs, her legs swinging. "Can we have mac and cheese, please?" Ethan checked the cabinet. 1 box left along with half a bag of frozen peas. He'd have to go grocery shopping soon, but the rent was due next week. He pushed the worry aside and pulled out a pot. "Mac and cheese it is. Want to tell me about school while I cook?" "We learned about butterflies today." Lily's voice bubbled with excitement as she described her science class, complete with dramatic arm movements mimicking butterfly wings. As Ethan stirred the pasta, adding the peas for some nutrition, he listened to every detail. The simple joy in her voice made the long hours and aching muscles worth it. When the food was ready, they sat at their small table, knees almost touching in the cramped space. "What about your day, Daddy?" Lily asked, cheese sauce dotting her chin. Ethan handed her a napkin, grinning. "Well, something pretty amazing happened. I found a piano today." "At work?" Lily's eyes widened. "Mm-hmm. And you won't believe how big it is. Bigger than our whole living room." Lily giggled, looking around their modest space. "No way." "Yes way. It's called a grand piano, and it's beautiful. All black and shiny, even if it was a bit dusty when I found it." Ethan demonstrated its size with his arms spread wide, making Lily laugh harder. "Did you play it?" "I did. And guess what? The owner asked me to fix it. Like you used to fix Mrs. Peterson's piano before we moved?" "Exactly like that." Ethan nodded, remembering the old upright he'd maintained for their former neighbor in exchange for letting Lily practice on it. "This one belongs to my boss. Actually, it was her mother's." "Can I see it sometime?" Lily asked, hope shining in her eyes. Ethan's smile faltered slightly. "We'll see, sweetheart. It's in a pretty fancy place." After dinner, they tackled the dishes together, Lily drying while Ethan washed. She told him about the spelling test coming up on Friday, and he made a mental note to practice with her tomorrow night. Bath time came next, with Lily creating an elaborate story about her rubber duck being a secret agent. Ethan sat on the closed toilet lid, adding sound effects at just the right moments and marveling at her imagination. Finally, it was bedtime. Lily's room was small, but they'd made it special together. Paper butterflies that they'd crafted hung from the ceiling, and her bed was covered with the quilt his mother had made before she passed. "Which story tonight?" Ethan asked, settling beside her on the narrow bed. Lily pulled out their worn copy of The Velveteen Rabbit. "This one, and do the voices." Ethan read slowly, giving each character a distinct voice that made Lily giggle. By the time the rabbit became real, her eyes were drooping. He finished the story softly, watching as she drifted off to sleep. "Love you, Daddy," she murmured. "Love you too, Princess." He kissed her forehead and carefully stood up, adjusting her nightlight before stepping out. In the quiet living room, Ethan sank into their second-hand armchair. Bills were spread across the coffee table. Electric, gas, rent. He picked up the latest one, running a tired hand through his hair. The extra money from fixing the piano would help, but it wouldn't solve everything. He closed his eyes, letting out a long breath. "Lord, give me strength," he whispered into the darkness. "Help me be enough for her." From Lily's room came the soft sound of her breathing, steady and peaceful. Ethan held on to that sound, that reminder of what mattered most. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges, but for now, his daughter was safe and happy. Sometimes, that had to be enough. Morning sunlight streamed through the floor to ceiling windows of Claire Whitmore's private lounge, casting long shadows across the marble floor. Ethan Cole knelt beside the grand piano, his toolbox open beside him. His careful hands moved with practiced precision as he examined the piano's inner workings. The familiar smell of wood and metal brought back memories of countless nights spent in his father's repair shop. Back then, fixing instruments had been about survival. Now, as his fingers traced the delicate hammers and strings, it felt different. Special. The click of heels against marble made him look up. Claire Whitmore stood in the doorway, her assistant hovering nervously behind her with a tablet in hand. Claire's navy business suit was perfectly tailored, her blonde hair swept into an elegant knot. But something in her eyes seemed softer than yesterday. "That will be all, Sarah," Claire said, waving her assistant away. "Hold my calls for the next hour. But Miss Whitmore, your 9 o'clock can wait." Claire's tone was firm but not unkind. The assistant nodded and hurried away, closing the door behind her. Ethan started to stand, but Claire shook her head. "Please, continue working. I'd like to watch, if you don't mind." "Of course not, ma'am." Ethan turned back to the piano, though he could feel her eyes on him as he worked. The silence between them felt heavy with unspoken words. "My mother taught me to play on this piano," Claire said suddenly. She moved closer, her hand trailing along the piano's smooth surface. "Every Sunday afternoon, right after church. She said music was God's way of speaking directly to our hearts." Ethan nodded, carefully adjusting a string. "My father used to say something similar. He believed every instrument had a soul of its own." "Used to?" Claire's voice was quiet. "He passed away when I was 16. The repair shop was his life's work." Ethan smiled sadly. "I learned everything I know from him." Claire was silent for a moment. Then she said, "I stopped playing after my mother died. 10 years ago. Cancer." She spoke the words matter-of-factly, but Ethan heard the pain beneath them. "This piano has been sitting here gathering dust ever since." "I'm sorry," Ethan said softly. He finished tightening the string and moved to the next one. "Losing a parent, it changes you." "Yes," Claire whispered. "It does." Ethan worked in silence for a few minutes, aware of Claire watching him. Her presence wasn't demanding or uncomfortable like he'd expected from a CEO. Instead, there was something almost vulnerable about the way she stood there, lost in memories. When he finished adjusting the last string, Ethan sat on the bench and played a few experimental notes. The sound rang clear and true through the room. Without thinking, he began playing an old hymn his grandmother had taught him. "It is well with my soul." The melody filled the space with gentle warmth. Out of the corner of his eye he saw Claire close her eyes, her shoulders relaxing slightly. The morning sun caught the tears gathering on her lashes, though she didn't seem aware of them. Ethan let the final notes fade naturally, the sound lingering in the air between them. Claire opened her eyes slowly, as if waking from a dream. "That was beautiful," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "You play like you've lived 1,000 heartbreaks." Ethan's fingers rested lightly on the keys. "Maybe I have." The late afternoon sun cast long shadows through the towering windows of Whitmore Enterprises. Ethan Cole glanced at his watch, then at his daughter Lily, who sat cross-legged in a quiet corner of the hallway. Her small hands moved deliberately across a sheet of paper, creating colorful drawings with her worn crayons. "Just 15 more minutes, sweetie," Ethan called out softly as he pushed his cleaning cart. "Then we can head home." Lily nodded, her pigtails bouncing. "Okay, Daddy." She continued coloring, her tongue sticking out slightly in concentration. Ethan felt guilty about bringing her to work, but his neighbor, Mrs. Martinez, had a doctor's appointment today. Usually, Lily stayed at her apartment after school, but sometimes backup plans fell through. That was life as a single parent, always juggling, always trying to make things work. He moved methodically down the hallway, wiping down the glass walls of conference rooms. The building was quiet at this hour. Most employees already headed home. Even the usual click-clack of heels had faded away. When Ethan looked up again, his heart skipped a beat. Lily's corner was empty, her crayons scattered on the floor. "Lily?" he called out, trying to keep his voice calm despite the surge of panic in his chest. "Lily, where are you?" He abandoned his cart and hurried down the corridor, checking each room. The sound of soft voices drew him toward the executive wing, His stomach twisted as he recognized where those voices were coming from: Claire Whitmore's office. Meanwhile, inside the CEO's office, Claire had just finished a phone call when movement caught her eye. A small figure stood in her doorway. A little girl with curious eyes and twin pigtails, clutching a crayon-covered paper. Claire's first instinct was to call security, but something made her pause. The child's face held no fear, only wonder, as she took in the expansive office with its wall of windows and modern artwork. "Hello there," Claire said, setting down her pen and rising from her desk. She approached slowly and knelt to the girl's level, her tailored suit creasing at the knees. "Are you lost?" The little girl shook her head. "I'm Lily. My daddy works here." She held up her drawing proudly. "I drew a piano, like the one Daddy's fixing." Recognition flickered across Claire's face. "You're Ethan's daughter?" Lily nodded, then tilted her head, studying Claire's features with an intensity that made the CEO slightly uncomfortable. There was something eerily familiar about the child's eyes, the shape of her face. "You're pretty," Lily said matter-of-factly. "Just like in the picture." Claire blinked. "What picture?" "The one Mommy kept by her bed." Lily stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Mommy says you're my daddy." The words hit Claire like a physical blow. She rocked back on her heels, steadying herself against her desk. The room seemed to spin as memories crashed over her. Her sister, Sarah's face, their last bitter argument, years of silence that followed. "What did you say?" Claire's voice came out hoarse. But, before Lily could answer, rapid footsteps approached. Ethan appeared in the doorway, slightly out of breath, his face etched with worry. "Lily, there you are!" Relief flooded his features, quickly replaced by embarrassment when he saw Claire. "Miss Whitmore, I'm so sorry. She was supposed to stay put." "What does she mean?" Claire cut him off, rising to her feet. Her voice trembled slightly. "What does she mean? Mommy says you're my daddy." Ethan's face drained of color as he looked between his daughter and his employer. The silence stretched thick and heavy between them. "Miss Whitmore, He swallowed hard, instinctively reaching for Lily, who ran to his side. "I didn't know. Sarah never told me." "Sarah?" Claire's voice cracked on the name. "You knew my sister." The pieces were falling into place with devastating clarity. Sarah's sudden disappearance years ago. The silence. The unanswered questions. And now this little girl with familiar eyes stood before her, holding onto her father's hand. "Please," Claire said, her professional demeanor cracking. "What does she mean?" Lily looked up at her father, then back at Claire. "Daddy? Is she the lady from Mommy's picture? The one Mommy called sister?" Ethan gathered Lily close, his protective instinct warring with the truth that now demanded to be told. He met Claire's stunned gaze, seeing in it the same confusion and pain he felt. "Miss Whitmore," he said quietly, "I think we need to talk." Claire gripped the edge of her desk, her knuckles white. The careful walls she'd built around her past were crumbling, and at the center of it all stood this maintenance worker and his daughter, her niece. "Yes," she managed to say. "I believe we do." Claire's private office fell silent, the only sound the gentle hum of the air conditioning. Ethan stood with his hands clasped tightly in front of him, his work uniform suddenly feeling too tight around his neck. Lily sat in a plush leather chair near Claire's desk, swinging her legs back and forth, unaware of the tension filling the room. "Sarah." Claire's voice cracked as she said her sister's name. "Sarah never told me she had a child." Ethan nodded slowly, his expression pained. "She didn't tell many people. When I met her, she was all ready." He glanced at Lily, choosing his words carefully. "She was already sick. We fell in love quickly, got married within months. She told me about you, about your family, but said there had been a falling out years ago." Claire sank into her chair, her usually perfect posture crumbling. "We hadn't spoken in 7 years. Not since." She pressed her fingers to her temples. "Not since that horrible fight about the family business." Lily looked up from her coloring book. "Daddy, can I have some water?" "Of course, sweetheart." Ethan moved to the water cooler in the corner, his movements mechanical, buying time to gather his thoughts. Claire watched Lily with new eyes, seeing hints of Sarah in the girl's delicate features. The same curved eyebrows, the same dimple in her left cheek. Her heart ached with a mixture of love and regret. How? Claire cleared her throat. How long were you married before she? 8 months, Ethan replied softly, handing Lily her water. The cancer came back aggressively. She held on just long enough to see Lily turn 3. His voice roughened. Before she passed, she gave me a letter. That's how I learned about your family, about the Whitmores. She wanted Lily to know where she came from, but she was afraid. Afraid of what? Claire demanded, her CEO persona slipping back into place like armor. Afraid you'd try to take Lily away, Ethan's words hung heavy in the air. She knew what kind of power and influence your family had. Claire flinched as if she'd been slapped. I would never, wouldn't you? Ethan's voice remained quiet, but firm. A janitor, raising the heir to the Whitmore fortune? I've seen how this world works, Miss Whitmore. I clean its floors every day. Lily looked between them, sensing the tension. Daddy? Ethan's face softened immediately. It's okay, sweetie. Keep coloring. Claire stood and walked to the window, her reflection ghostly in the darkening glass. Sarah was pregnant, and she never told me. She was dying, and she never reached out. Her voice trembled. I would have been there. I would have. Would you? Ethan challenged gently. From what Sarah told me, your family made it clear she was cut off unless she fell in line with their plans. Claire turned, her eyes bright with unshed tears. That was our parents' decision, not mine. I was just following. She stopped, realizing how hollow the excuse sounded. Lily put down her crayon and walked over to Claire, taking her hand with innocent trust. You look sad like Daddy does sometimes when he misses Mommy. Claire's careful composure cracked. She knelt down to Lily's level, really looking at her niece for the first time. I miss your Mommy too. I missed her for a very long time. Ethan watched the interaction with wary eyes. Miss Whitmore, I need to be clear about something. His voice was firm but respectful. Lily is my daughter. She's all I have, and I'm all she's known. I understand you're processing a lot right now, but if you're thinking of pursuing any kind of custody, I would never separate a child from their parent, Claire interrupted, standing up. Despite what you might think of me or my family, I'm not heartless. No, Ethan said softly. I don't think you are. But you are powerful, and that makes you dangerous. Claire walked to her desk, picking up a framed photo. 2 young girls at a piano laughing. She's my blood, Mr. Cole. My sister's daughter. You can't expect me to just ignore that. I don't, Ethan replied. But you need to understand. Lily comes first. Her stability, her happiness, her world as she knows it. I won't let anyone threaten that, no matter who they are. Lily tugged at Claire's sleeve. Can I see the piano again? Daddy says you have a big one. The tension in the room softened slightly. Claire managed a small smile. Yes, I do. But it's getting late, and I'm sure your daddy needs to take you home. Ethan checked his watch. She's right, Lily, bug. Time to pack up your crayons. As Lily gathered her things, Claire spoke quietly to Ethan. I'd like to be part of her life, to know her. But on your terms, Mr. Cole. You have my word. Ethan studied her face for a long moment. I appreciate that. But trust takes time, Miss Whitmore. And trust between our worlds, that's complicated. They left Claire's office, Lily chattering happily about her drawings, unaware of the weight of the moment. Claire watched them go, her heart heavy with newfound knowledge and responsibility. Later that night, long after the office had emptied, Claire sat alone in the dim light of her private lounge. Her fingers traced the keys of the piano, the instrument that had brought Ethan into her orbit, that had somehow led to this revelation. The keys that had once known Sarah's touch, too. She's my sister's child, my blood, Claire whispered to herself, the words both a blessing and a burden in the quiet night. The piano stood silent, holding memories of 2 sisters who had once played side by side before life and pride and family expectations had torn them apart. Now it held a new weight. The key to a connection Claire never knew she had, and one she wasn't sure she deserved. The small cafe buzzed with the lunch crowd's chatter, sunlight streaming through its large windows. Claire Whitmore sat at a corner table, her usual confident posture slightly rigid as she checked her watch for the third time. She had chosen this place carefully, casual enough not to intimidate but private enough for a delicate conversation. The bell above the door chimed. Ethan walked in with Lily holding his hand, her backpack decorated with colorful butterfly pins bouncing as she skipped beside him. His work uniform was replaced with a clean button-down shirt and khakis, though he still looked uncomfortable. "Miss Claire!" Lily broke free from her father's grip and rushed toward the table. Claire's face softened instantly at the child's enthusiasm. "Hello, Lily." Claire smiled, then nodded at Ethan. "Thank you for coming." Ethan pulled out a chair for Lily before sitting down himself. "We appreciate the invitation," he said formally, though his tense shoulders suggested otherwise. A waitress approached with menus, and Lily's eyes widened at the colorful pictures of desserts. "Daddy, look, they have chocolate milk!" "Inside voice, sweetie," Ethan reminded gently, but Claire waved her hand. "Order whatever you'd like, both of you, please." While Lily debated between pancakes and a grilled cheese sandwich, Claire watched the interaction between father and daughter. Ethan patiently explained each menu item, his voice warm and encouraging. It was so different from her own childhood memories of formal family dinners where children were expected to be seen, not heard. "I want pancakes," Lily declared. "With extra syrup." "How about regular syrup?" Ethan suggested. But Claire found herself speaking up. "Extra syrup is fine. It's a special occasion, isn't it?" Ethan's eyebrows rose slightly, but Lily beamed. "Thank you, Miss Claire. Daddy never lets me have extra syrup." "That's because someone gets very bouncy after too much sugar," Ethan said, but there was a hint of amusement in his voice. After they ordered, an awkward silence fell over the table. Lily, however, seemed immune to it, as she pulled out some crayons from her backpack and began drawing on the paper placemat. "Miss Claire, do you like butterflies?" "I'm drawing you one." "I do?" Claire replied, surprised by the simple question. "Purple ones are my favorite." "Mine too," Lily exclaimed. "Daddy says butterflies are like magic because they start as caterpillars." Claire found herself laughing at Lily's enthusiasm. The sound surprised her. When was the last time she had laughed so freely? Ethan looked equally startled, his eyes widening slightly at the transformation in her face. Their food arrived, and Lily launched into a detailed description of her school day, complete with dramatic reenactments of playground adventures. Claire found herself drawn into the child's world, asking questions and smiling at Lily's animated responses. "And in music class," Lily continued between bites of syrup, drenched pancakes, "we learned about different instruments. I told everyone my daddy can play the piano really good." Claire saw Ethan's cheeks redden slightly. "Well," he corrected gently. "Actually," Claire set down her fork, "I've been thinking about that. Lily, would you like to learn to play the piano?" Lily's eyes grew huge. "Really? I could arrange lessons," Claire said, looking at Ethan. "The piano in my office, it should be used for more than just collecting dust." Ethan shifted in his chair. "That's very generous, but—" "Please, Daddy?" Lily clasped her hands together. "Pretty please?" "We can't impose," Ethan started, but Claire cut him off. "It's not an imposition. She's my niece, Ethan. Let me do this for her." The words, "my niece," felt strange on her tongue, but right somehow. Lily bounced in her seat. "Can you teach me, Miss Claire?" "Oh, Claire hesitated. "I haven't played in years. But we could find a wonderful teacher." "Why don't you play anymore?" Lily asked innocently. The question hung in the air. Claire stared at her half-eaten salad, memories of her mother at the piano flooding back. Ethan seemed to sense her discomfort. "Sometimes," he said softly, "music reminds us of people we miss." Claire looked up, meeting his understanding gaze. For a moment, they shared something. An acknowledgement of loss that needed no words. "But music can also help us remember the happy times," Ethan added, his voice gentle. "Maybe you could start playing again, teach Lily together?" Claire felt something shift inside her, like a key turning in a lock she'd forgotten existed. "Maybe," she said quietly. The rest of lunch passed more comfortably, with Lily's chatter filling any silences. When it was time to leave, Claire insisted on paying, waving away Ethan's protests. "Thank you for lunch, Miss Claire." Lily hugged her impulsively. Claire stiffened for a moment before cautiously returning the embrace. Later that night, Ethan tucked Lily into bed, her hair still damp from her bath, the sugar high from lunch long worn off. "Daddy?" Lily's voice was sleepy as he pulled her butterfly-covered comforter up to her chin. "Yes, sweetie? I think Miss Claire is lonely." Ethan paused in smoothing the blanket. "What makes you say that?" "She smiled really big when we had lunch, but her eyes looked sad when we left." Lily yawned. "Like she didn't want us to go." The morning sun filtered through the thin curtains of Ethan and Lily's second-floor apartment. Ethan stood at their small kitchen counter, mixing pancake batter, while Lily sat cross-legged on their worn but clean couch, watching Saturday morning cartoons. A knock at the door made them both jump. Ethan wiped his hands on a dish towel, brow furrowed. They weren't expecting anyone. "Who is it?" he called out. "It's Claire." The voice was hesitant but clear. Ethan's eyes widened. He glanced around their modest living space, tidy but obviously well-used furniture, walls that needed fresh paint, and their upright piano tucked against the wall, its wood scratched but lovingly maintained. When he opened the door, Claire stood there in casual clothes, a simple sweater and jeans that probably cost more than his monthly rent. She held a paper bag from an upscale bakery and a folder of sheet music. "I hope I'm not interrupting," she said, looking slightly uncertain. It was strange seeing her without her usual CEO armor. "Miss Claire!" Lily bounced off the couch and ran to the door, her purple pajamas decorated with stars. A genuine smile spread across Claire's face. "Good morning, Lily." She held up the bag. "I brought breakfast pastries. And some music, if that's okay." Ethan stepped back, gesturing for her to enter. "We were just making pancakes, but—" he trailed off, not wanting to seem ungrateful. "Oh, I'm sorry. I should have called first." Claire started to retreat. "No, no," Ethan said quickly. "Please, join us. We can have both." He smiled despite his unease. "Lily's always hungry anyway." Their small dining table only had 3 chairs, making it feel like fate had been expecting Claire all along. She set out the pastries, delicate Danish and croissants that made Lily's eyes grow wide, while Ethan finished the pancakes. "Your home is lovely," Claire said softly, and something in her tone made Ethan realize she meant it. She wasn't seeing the shabby corners or dated appliances. She was seeing the family photos on the walls, Lily's artwork on the refrigerator, and the obvious care they took with what they had. After breakfast, Claire pulled out the sheet music. "I thought maybe we could start with something simple?" She looked at Lily hopefully. Lily practically dragged Claire to their piano. The contrast was striking. Claire, in her expensive casual wear, perched next to Lily in her star pajamas on the worn piano bench. "First, let's learn where all the notes are," Claire began, her voice taking on a gentle patience Ethan had never heard at the office. She guided Lily's small fingers to middle C. Ethan washed dishes at the kitchen sink, watching them from the corner of his eye. Claire was a natural teacher, breaking down complex concepts into pieces Lily could understand. His daughter's face glowed with concentration as she practiced basic scales. "Very good," Claire praised, when Lily managed a complete scale. "You have natural talent. Just like Daddy," Lily beamed. Something flickered across Claire's face. Recognition, perhaps, or remembrance of Ethan playing her mother's piano. She glanced his way, their eyes meeting briefly before both looked away. The morning stretched on, filled with simple melodies and Lily's occasional giggles when she hit wrong notes. Claire's perfectionist CEO persona melted away completely as she worked with the child, showing a warmth that surprised Ethan. But anxiety gnawed at him too. Each time Claire praised Lily, or shared a special smile with her, fear crept in. This powerful woman could offer his daughter so much more than he could. Private schools, music lessons, opportunities he couldn't dream of providing. Would she try to use that advantage? Would she think her wealth gave her rights to Lily? "Daddy, watch!" Lily called out, playing a simple tune Claire had just taught her. Ethan moved closer, clapping when she finished. "That's wonderful, sweetheart." "She's a quick study," Claire said, pride evident in her voice. She caught herself, glancing uncertainly at Ethan, as if worried she'd overstepped. "She is," he agreed quietly, "just like her mother was." Claire's hand stilled on the keys. It was the first time either had mentioned her sister directly since the revelation. The moment hung between them, heavy with unspoken words. Lily, oblivious to the tension, started playing her new tune again. Claire recovered, turning back to guide her through the next part. As the lesson continued, Ethan noticed how natural it felt. Claire in their home, teaching Lily, sharing their Saturday morning. It scared him how easily she fit into their little world, how much Lily was already attached to her. His daughter had so few female influences in her life. "I should get going," Claire said eventually, gathering her things. "Thank you for letting me interrupt your morning." "Can you come back next Saturday?" Lily asked hopefully. Claire looked to Ethan, waiting for his response. He knew he should protect their boundaries, keep some distance. Instead, he found himself nodding. "If you'd like to." Relief and happiness flashed across Claire's face. "I'd love to." Lily hugged her goodbye, and Claire hugged back after only a moment's hesitation. At the door, she turned to Ethan. "Thank you," she said softly. "This meant a lot." He could only nod, his emotions too complex to voice. When the door closed behind her, Lily ran back to the piano, eager to practice her new songs. Through the thin walls, Ethan heard Claire's footsteps stop in the hallway. There was a long pause, and he could almost picture her standing there, one hand pressed to her heart, processing the morning's events and the feelings they had stirred. Over the next few days, Claire found herself drawn more and more to Ethan and Lily's simple world. Their modest apartment became a sanctuary from her high-pressure corporate life. One evening, she brought Chinese takeout, and Lily's eyes lit up at the sight of the paper containers. "Fortune cookies!" Lily bounced in her chair, her pigtails swaying. "Can I have mine first, Daddy?" Ethan smiled, setting out paper plates on their small dining table. "After dinner, sweetheart. Remember what we talked about?" Claire watched their easy interaction, a warmth spreading in her chest. The walls of their apartment might be cramped, the furniture well worn, but there was so much love here. It made her penthouse feel empty in comparison. "Here," Claire said, passing Lily the sweet and sour chicken. "Your dad tells me this is your favorite." "You remembered," Lily beamed at her. After a pause, she added shyly, "Thank you, Aunt Claire." Claire's hand froze midway to her own plate. "Aunt Claire." The words hit her like a gentle wave, washing away years of loneliness. She caught Ethan's concerned glance, but managed a wobbly smile. "You're welcome, sweetie," she whispered. The next day, Claire joined them at the local grocery store. She'd never actually pushed a cart through aisles before. Her housekeeper usually handled such tasks. But here she was, helping Lily count apples, while Ethan carefully compared prices. "Look how red this one is." Lily held up an apple proudly. "That's perfect," Claire said, then noticed Ethan's hesitation at the price. Without missing a beat, she added, "I insist on contributing to dinner since you're both teaching me so much about cooking." Ethan's pride warred with practicality before he nodded. "Thank you, Claire. That's kind of you." Later that week, they visited Henderson Park. Lily fed ducks while Claire and Ethan sat on a nearby bench, watching her. "She has Sarah's laugh," Claire said softly, referring to her late sister. "I can't believe I missed so many years." Ethan's hands clasped together. "Sarah. She wanted to reach out, near the end. She was scared you'd judge her choices." "I would have," Claire admitted. "Back then, I was so caught up in being perfect, in living up to our family name. Losing Mom, I thought if I controlled everything, I couldn't hurt anymore." "Grief changes us," Ethan said quietly. "When I lost Rachel, Lily was all that kept me going. Some days, just getting out of bed felt impossible." Claire studied his profile, seeing the shadows of old pain there. "How did you keep your faith?" "One day at a time," he replied, watching Lily giggle as a duck waddled closer. "And remembering that love, real love, it doesn't die. It just changes shape. The following evening, they had dinner at Claire's penthouse. Lily spilled her milk across the expensive tablecloth, and Claire surprised herself by laughing. "Oh, sweetie, don't worry," she said, as Lily's eyes welled up. "You should have seen me at your age. I once spilled grape juice all over Mom's white piano keys." "Really?" Lily asked, relief replacing worry. "Really. And you know what Mom did?" Claire grabbed paper towels, dabbing at the spill. "She said music sounds sweeter when it comes from a piano with character." Ethan joined in the cleanup, his fingers briefly brushing Claire's as they both reached for the same spot. The touch sent an unexpected tingle through her hand. Throughout the week, Claire found herself looking forward to these simple moments. A quick lunch in the park, helping Lily with homework, while Ethan prepared dinner, teaching them both a simple duet on the office piano. The transformation in her office was noticeable. Employees whispered about how their Ice Queen CEO now smiled more, how her sharp edges had softened. But Claire didn't care about the gossip. For the first time since her mother's death, she felt truly alive. One evening, after most employees had left, Ethan sat at the restored piano in Claire's office. Lily had fallen asleep on the leather couch, her math homework scattered around her. "Play something," Claire requested softly, not wanting to wake Lily. Ethan's fingers found the keys, and the melody that emerged was gentle, full of longing and hope. Claire stood by the window, watching the city lights twinkle below, but her attention kept drifting back to him. The way his shoulders moved with the music, how his eyes closed when he hit particularly emotional passages, the quiet strength in his hands that could both fix broken things and create such beauty. "Why can't I look away?" she whispered under her breath, the words barely audible over the music. The grand ballroom of the Whitmore Enterprise headquarters sparkled with crystal chandeliers and polished marble floors. Claire stood near the entrance, her black evening gown catching the light as she checked her watch for the third time. The annual charity gala was her company's biggest social event of the year, but tonight felt different. Her usual calm confidence had given way to nervous anticipation. When Ethan and Lily finally appeared through the glass doors, Claire's face lit up. Lily wore a pink dress that twirled when she spun, her hair neatly braided. Ethan had managed to find a simple black suit that fit him well enough, though he kept tugging at his collar as if it were too tight. "You both look wonderful," Claire said, bending down to hug Lily. "Daddy said I look like a princess," Lily beamed, doing another spin. Ethan shifted uncomfortably. "We're not really used to fancy parties like this." "You'll be fine," Claire assured him, touching his arm briefly. "Just be yourself." As they entered the ballroom, heads turned. Claire pretended not to notice the whispers that followed them. Board members and executives exchanged glances, some disapproving, others merely curious. Ethan kept his eyes down, focusing on guiding Lily through the crowd. "Mr. Harrison," Claire called out to one of her senior board members, "I'd like you to meet Ethan Cole and his daughter Lily." The older man's handshake was brief, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. "Ah, yes, from maintenance, correct?" Before Ethan could respond, Lily piped up. "Daddy fixes things!" He made Aunt Claire's piano sing again. Something in Harrison's expression softened at Lily's innocent enthusiasm. "Is that so?" Claire seized the moment. "Actually, Ethan is quite talented. He's been giving Lily piano lessons." They made their way through more introductions, some warm, others cool. Lily's natural charm helped ease the tension, but Claire could see Ethan growing more uncomfortable by the minute. When dinner was served, he stared at the multiple forks with quiet panic until Claire subtly pointed to the correct one. "I don't belong here," he whispered to her during the main course. "Of course you do," Claire replied firmly. "You're my guest." After dinner, as the chamber musicians took their scheduled break, Claire saw her chance. She leaned close to Ethan. "Would you play something?" His eyes widened. "Here? Now? Please?" She gestured to the grand piano on the small stage. "Show them who you really are." Ethan looked at Lily, who nodded enthusiastically. "Go on, Daddy." Taking a deep breath, Ethan stood and made his way to the piano. The room gradually fell silent as he sat down, all eyes turning to watch the maintenance man at the grand piano. Claire held her breath. The first notes floated across the ballroom, soft and hesitant. But as Ethan closed his eyes and let the music flow through him, the melody grew stronger. It was a piece Claire had heard him play before, something he'd written himself after his wife passed away. The raw emotion in every note made her throat tight. Around the room, conversations stopped. Wine glasses paused halfway to lips. Even the servers stood still, transfixed by the music that filled every corner of the massive space. Claire watched as hardened business executives dabbed at their eyes and socialites forgot to maintain their perfect postures. Lily crept up to Claire and slipped her small hand into hers. "Daddy's playing his heart song," she whispered. The final notes lingered in the air like a prayer. For a moment, nobody moved or spoke. Then the applause started, building into thunderous appreciation. Ethan opened his eyes, seeming surprised to find himself still in the ballroom. Claire couldn't help herself. She walked to the piano, took his hand, and squeezed it tight. "That was beautiful," she said, not caring who saw or what they might think. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of congratulations and praise. Even Mr. Harrison approached to express his admiration. "Remarkable talent," he said, shaking Ethan's hand with genuine respect this time. "Simply remarkable." As the gala wound down, Lily began to yawn. Claire insisted on having her driver take them home. In the back of the sleek black car, Lily curled up between them, her head resting on her father's lap. Within minutes, she was fast asleep. "Thank you," Ethan said softly, "for believing in me." Claire turned to look at him, her heart skipping at the warmth in his eyes. The city lights played across his face as they drove through the quiet streets. Neither spoke, but in that moment of shared silence, something shifted between them. Claire felt it in her bones, a possibility she hadn't dared to imagine before. Ethan met her gaze, and for a long moment they just looked at each other over Lily's sleeping form. The unspoken words hung in the air between them, full of promise and uncertainty. Claire's hand rested inches from his on the leather seat, and she could feel the warmth radiating from where their fingers nearly touched. The morning sun filtered through the dusty windows of Ethan's small apartment kitchen. Lily sat at their worn wooden table, humming happily as she spooned cereal into her mouth. Her feet swung back and forth, still riding the high from last night's magical gala. "Daddy, can I wear my pretty dress to school today?" Lily asked, milk dribbling down her chin. Ethan smiled and handed her a napkin. "Not today, sweetheart, but maybe we can save it for another special occasion." The gentle knock at the door surprised them both. Ethan opened it to find a courier holding out a thick envelope. "Delivery for Mr. Ethan Cole." His hands trembled slightly as he signed for it. The return address belonged to one of the city's most prestigious law firms. Something cold settled in his stomach as he tore it open. Lily watched him from the table. "What is it, Daddy?" The words on the paper blurred before his eyes. Terms like petition for custody and unfit guardian jumped out at him. The signature at the bottom belonged to Maxwell Whitmore, Claire's uncle. "Nothing, sweetie," Ethan managed, forcing a smile. "Just grown-up paperwork. Time for school. Go grab your backpack." After dropping Lily off, Ethan's hands gripped the steering wheel so tight his knuckles turned white. He pulled into the Whitmore Enterprise parking garage earlier than usual, the letter burning a hole in his pocket. The building was quiet, most employees not yet arrived. He found Claire in her office, already reviewing documents at her desk. She looked up, surprised to see him. "Ethan, what's wrong?" He placed the letter on her desk without a word. Claire picked it up, her face growing darker as she read. "My uncle," she whispered. "I should have known he'd try something like this." "He says I'm unfit," Ethan's voice cracked. "That Lily deserves better than a janitor for a father." Claire stood up sharply. "This is ridiculous. I'm calling him right now." 20 minutes later, Maxwell Whitmore's imposing figure filled Claire's office doorway. His expensive suit and carefully groomed silver hair radiated old money and power. His thin lips curved into a practiced smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Claire, darling, I see you've heard our wonderful news." His gaze slid dismissively over Ethan. though I'm not sure why the cleaning staff is present for this discussion. That cleaning staff is Lily's father, Claire snapped. What do you think you're doing, Uncle Max? Maxwell settled himself into a chair, brushing an invisible speck from his sleeve. What any responsible member of this family would do, protecting our interests. That child is a Whitmore. She's a Cole, Ethan said quietly. She's my daughter. Maxwell's laugh was sharp and cruel. Please, you're nothing more than a mop with hands. What can you possibly offer her? A life of poverty? Embarrassment, when her friends discover her father scrubs toilets? Ethan's face flushed red, but he held his ground. I offer her love, stability, a father who'd die for her. How touching, Maxwell sneered. But love doesn't pay for the best schools or open doors to the right social circles. Claire, surely you see reason here? The board is already concerned about your association with the help. Claire's hands clenched into fists. Get out, she hissed. Think carefully, niece. Maxwell stood, straightening his tie. Your reputation, the company's image, it's all at stake. The board won't look kindly on their CEO choosing a janitor over family interests. After he left, silence filled the office. Claire paced, clearly torn between fury and fear. We'll fight this, she finally said. I'll hire the best lawyers. No. Ethan's quiet words stopped her. What do you mean, no? He's right about one thing. Ethan's voice was heavy with resignation. I can't give her what you can. The best schools, opportunities, a future without struggle. That's not what matters most. Isn't it? Ethan met her eyes. Every parent wants better for their child. Maybe. Maybe this is better. Claire stared at him in disbelief. You can't be serious. After everything we've shared these past weeks? The way Lily lights up when she sees you? You're just going to give up? It's not giving up, Ethan's voice broke. It's letting go for her sake. If she'll have a better life with you, I won't stand in the way. Claire opened her mouth, but no words came. She watched helplessly as Ethan turned and walked out of her office, his shoulders slumped in defeat. The morning sun caught the brass buttons of his janitor's uniform, making them shine like bitter tears. The morning light crept through the windows of Whitmore Enterprises, but its warmth failed to reach Ethan's heart. His mop moved mechanically across the marble floor, his shoulders heavy with the weight of the lawyer's letter. When he heard the distinct click of Claire's heels approaching, he quickly ducked into a supply closet, waiting until the sound faded away. In her office, Claire stood by the window, watching Ethan's reflection in the glass as he cleaned the lobby below. Her chest tightened when she saw him turn away the moment she appeared. The distance between them felt like miles, though only days ago they'd shared such a perfect moment at the gala. Her assistant knocked softly. Miss Whitmore, the board is waiting. Tell them I'll be there shortly, Claire replied, her voice steady despite the tremor in her heart. Days passed like this, a dance of avoidance. When Claire entered a room, Ethan found reasons to leave. When their paths crossed, his "Good morning, Miss Whitmore" was painfully formal, nothing like the warm conversations they'd shared before. The piano sat silent, collecting dust once again. At home, Lily noticed the change in her father. She found him one evening sitting on their threadbare couch, staring at nothing in particular. His dinner plate sat untouched on the coffee table. "Daddy?" Lily climbed onto the couch beside him. "How come you don't smile anymore?" Ethan pulled her close, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "Sometimes grown-ups have big things to think about, sweetheart. Is it because Aunt Claire doesn't come over anymore?" Lily's innocent question hit him like a punch to the gut. "Did she stop liking us?" "No, baby," Ethan's voice cracked. "Aunt Claire. She has important work to do, and Daddy needs to focus on taking care of you." That night, after tucking Lily in, Ethan knelt beside his bed. His hands clasped together, trembling slightly. "Lord," he whispered, "I don't understand your plan here. I thought maybe you were giving us something special, but if letting her go means giving Lily a better life." His voice broke. "Give me strength to do what's right." Meanwhile, in her penthouse apartment, Claire paced restlessly. Work files lay scattered across her desk, but she couldn't focus. Her uncle's words echoed in her mind. A janitor raising a Whitmore? It's shameful, Claire. Think of the family name. She walked to her bedroom and opened her jewelry box, pulling out an old photograph. Her mother smiled back at her, seated at the very piano that had brought Ethan into her life. She remembered her mother's words from long ago. Love isn't about what's safe or proper, Claire. It's about having the courage to open your heart, even when you're scared. Claire traced her mother's face with her finger. I was starting to feel whole again, Mom. With them, I remembered how to laugh, how to feel. She wiped away a tear. But what if the board is right? What if I'm risking everything I've built? Lily's words from their last piano lesson floated back to her. Aunt Claire, you look pretty when you smile. Daddy thinks so too. I heard him tell Mrs. Rodriguez next door. Claire found herself walking the empty halls of her office building late that night. The cleaning crew had gone home, and the silence pressed in around her. Her footsteps led her to the private lounge where the piano stood, its polished surface reflecting the city lights from outside. She ran her fingers along the keys, remembering how Ethan's music had filled these halls with life, how his gentle strength had taught her to feel again, how Lily's laughter had chased away years of loneliness. Standing there in the darkness, Claire whispered into the empty room, I won't lose them. Not this time. Her words hung in the air, a promise to herself, to her mother's memory, and to the little family that had somehow become her whole world. The courtroom's polished oak benches felt cold and hard beneath Ethan as he sat straight-backed in his best suit, the only one he owned, slightly worn at the elbows but carefully pressed. Lily sat between him and Claire, her small hand clutching his larger one. The morning light filtered through tall windows, casting long shadows across the floor. Claire's uncle, Harrison Whitmore, sat at the opposite table in an expensive tailored suit that probably cost more than Ethan's monthly salary. His lawyer shuffled papers with practiced efficiency, occasionally whispering in Harrison's ear. All rise, the bailiff called out. Judge Margaret Peterson entered, her black robe sweeping behind her as she took her seat at the bench. Please be seated, she said, adjusting her glasses as she reviewed the case file. We're here today regarding custody of Lily Cole. Mr. Harrison Whitmore is petitioning for custody from the child's father, Mr. Ethan Cole. Harrison's lawyer stood first, straightening his tie. Your Honor, we intend to show that while Mr. Cole may care for his daughter, he lacks the resources and status to provide her with the opportunities she deserves as a member of the Whitmore family. The next hour was brutal. Harrison's lawyer called witness after witness, financial experts who detailed Ethan's modest income, social workers who noted the small size of his apartment, even Ethan's supervisor, who had to admit that yes, Ethan was just a janitor. When Harrison took the stand, his voice dripped with carefully crafted concern. Your Honor, I only want what's best for my great-niece. Mr. Cole is. He paused for effect. A simple man with simple means. Lily deserves the finest education, the best opportunities. The Whitmore name carries weight, opens doors. She should be raised in an environment befitting her heritage. Ethan's hands trembled slightly, but he kept his head high. When it was his turn to speak, he stood slowly, straightening his shoulders. Mr. Cole, his lawyer asked, what can you offer Lily? Ethan's voice was quiet but steady. I can't offer her mansions or trust funds. What I can offer is love, unconditional and complete. Every morning, I make her breakfast and pack her lunch with a little note inside. Every night, I read her stories and tuck her in. When she's sick, I stay up all night by her bed. When she's happy, her smile lights up my whole world. He took a deep breath. I work hard, and yes, I'm a janitor. But that job puts food on our table and teaches Lily that honest work has dignity. We might not have much, but we have enough. We have love, faith, and each other. Harrison's lawyer stood up for cross-examination. Mr. Cole, isn't it true that you sometimes have to leave Lily with neighbors while you work? That you can't afford after-school programs or enrichment activities? Yes, Ethan admitted. But those neighbors are like family. Mrs. Rodriguez bakes cookies with Lily and teaches her Spanish. Mr. Chen helps her with math homework. We might not be rich, but we're part of a community that cares. The lawyer's voice turned sharp. And what about college? Private schools? The kind of opportunities the Whitmores could provide? Before Ethan could answer, movement at the back of the courtroom caught everyone's attention. Claire stood up, her heels clicking against the floor as she walked to the front. Your Honor? Claire's voice rang out clear and strong. I'd like to speak, if I may. The judge nodded, and Claire took the stand. She sat tall, every inch the powerful CEO, but her eyes were soft as she looked at Lily and Ethan. I am Claire Whitmore, CEO of Whitmore Enterprises and Lily's aunt. I've known Ethan Cole for several months now, and I've seen firsthand the kind of father he is. She turned to face the judge directly. My uncle speaks of opportunities and the Whitmore name, but I bear that name, and I can tell you it comes with a price. She paused, her voice growing softer but no less intense. I grew up in those mansion halls. I had the finest everything, and I was lonely. My sister, Lily's mother, felt the same way. We were raised by nannies while our parents attended galas. We had tutors instead of friends. When my sister ran away to marry for love, I envied her courage. The courtroom was silent as Claire continued. Ethan Cole may be a janitor, but he's the truest father I've ever known. He's taught Lily values no trust fund can buy: kindness, integrity, the importance of family, and, speaking of family, she straightened her shoulders. I'm offering to share guardianship with Ethan. Not to take Lily away, but to add to the love she already has. Together, we can ensure she has both opportunity and nurture. Harrison's face turned red. Claire, you can't be serious. Consorting with the help. Mr. Whitmore, the judge warned sharply, please control yourself. Claire's voice turned steel hard as she faced her uncle. The help, as you call him, has more nobility in his work, worn hands than you've shown in your entire life. Lily doesn't need the Whitmore name. She needs her father's love. When Claire finished, the judge removed her glasses, studying the scene before her. Lily had tears in her eyes, but was smiling, still holding Ethan's hand. Claire had moved to stand beside them, a protective presence. I'll review all the testimony and evidence, Judge Peterson announced. We'll reconvene tomorrow morning for my decision. Court is adjourned. As people began filing out of the courtroom, Ethan and Claire walked side by side down the broad courthouse steps, Lily between them. No words were spoken, none were needed. The late afternoon sun cast their shadows together on the pavement, three figures united against whatever tomorrow might bring. The sun had already set when Claire followed Ethan and Lily up the narrow stairs to their small apartment. Her heels clicked against the worn steps, echoing in the stairwell. The day's tension lingered in their shoulders, but Lily's excited chatter about showing Claire her favorite board game lightened the mood. It's not much, Ethan said apologetically as he unlocked the door. The apartment was modest but clean, with well-loved furniture and Lily's artwork decorating the walls. It's perfect, Claire replied softly, meaning it. The warmth here felt more like home than her empty mansion ever had. Lily bounced on her toes. Can we have mac and cheese, Daddy? Please? Ethan's tired face broke into a gentle smile. Sure, sweetie. Why don't you show Aunt Claire your games while I cook? The kitchen and living room merged into one cozy space. While Ethan moved around the small kitchen, Claire sat cross-legged on the carpet with Lily. The little girl pulled out a worn Monopoly box from under the coffee table. This is my favorite, Lily declared, carefully setting up the board. Daddy always lets me be the dog piece. Claire picked up the tiny silver thimble. This was always my favorite when I was your age. Really? Lily's eyes lit up. Did you play with my mommy? The question caught Claire off guard. She glanced at Ethan, who had paused at the stove. Yes, she said quietly. We used to play for hours. From the kitchen, the smell of melting cheese filled the apartment. Ethan stirred the pot slowly, adding a dash of pepper the way Lily liked it. Dinner's almost ready, he called. They ate at the small kitchen table, squeezing together on three mismatched chairs. Lily told stories about school between bites, making them laugh with her animated descriptions of playground drama. Claire watched father and daughter interact, her heart aching with longing for what she'd missed all these years. This is delicious, Claire said, surprised by how much she was enjoying the simple meal. Ethan shrugged. It's just boxed mac and cheese. Sometimes the simplest things are the best, she replied, their eyes meeting briefly across the table. After dinner, Lily insisted on returning to their game. They played until Lily's eyes started drooping, despite her protests that she wasn't tired. "Time for bed, sweetheart," Ethan said firmly. "Can Aunt Claire help tuck me in?" Lily asked hopefully. Claire's throat tightened with emotion. "I'd love to." They followed Lily to her small bedroom, decorated with butterfly stickers and crayon drawings. Ethan pulled out a worn Bible from the bedside table, a nightly routine Claire had never witnessed before. "Would you like to read tonight's verse?" He offered the book to Claire. Her hands trembled slightly as she accepted it. I haven't done this in years. Just read from your heart," he encouraged softly. Claire cleared her throat and read, "Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." The words hung in the air, touching something deep within all of them. Lily snuggled under her covers, and they both kissed her forehead good night. Back in the kitchen, Claire automatically picked up a dish towel while Ethan ran hot water in the sink. They fell into an easy rhythm, him washing, her drying. The comfortable silence was broken only by the gentle clink of dishes and the running water. Their hands brushed as he passed her a plate, sending a small shiver through both of them. Neither pulled away immediately. The touch lingered, wet fingers against dry ones, speaking volumes in the quiet kitchen. "Thank you," Ethan said suddenly, his voice low, "for everything you said in court today." Claire set down the plate carefully. "I only spoke the truth. You're an amazing father, Ethan." He turned off the water, drying his hands on a towel. "I keep thinking about what your uncle said. Maybe Lily deserves better than—" "Don't," Claire cut him off firmly. "Don't ever doubt your worth as a father. Money doesn't make a good parent. Love does." Their eyes met in the dim kitchen light. The space between them seemed to shrink, charged with unspoken feelings. Claire could see the faint stubble on his jaw, the worried crease between his brows that she wanted to smooth away. Finally, reluctantly, Claire glanced at her watch. "I should go. It's getting late." Ethan walked her to the door, their footsteps quiet so as not to wake Lily. In the narrow hallway, they stood close, too close. Claire could feel the warmth radiating from him, see the conflict in his eyes that matched her own. He leaned forward slightly, and her breath caught. For a moment, she thought he might kiss her. Her heart thundered in her chest as she tilted her face up toward his. But Ethan pulled back, his voice rough with emotion. "Not until I know Lily's safe." Claire nodded, understanding but disappointed. Her hand found his in the darkness, squeezing gently. "Whatever happens tomorrow, we'll face it together." They shared one last look before she stepped into the hallway, both knowing that tomorrow would change everything, for better or worse. The morning sun filtered through the tall courthouse windows, casting long shadows across the polished floor. Ethan sat rigid in his chair, his hands clasped tightly in his lap. Every creak of the wooden benches, every shuffle of papers made his heart jump. Beside him, his lawyer arranged documents with steady hands, but Ethan could barely breathe. Claire sat in the row directly behind him, her usual CEO composure slightly cracked. She'd traded her power suits for a simple navy dress, trying to appear more family-oriented than corporate. Lily, dressed in her Sunday best, fidgeted between them, not fully understanding the weight of the moment. The judge, a woman with silver hair and kind eyes, adjusted her glasses as she reviewed the final documents. The courtroom fell silent, waiting. Ethan's uncle, Richard Whitmore, sat across the aisle with a smug expression that made Ethan's stomach turn. Having reviewed all evidence and testimonies presented, the judge began, her voice clear and measured. "I am ready to deliver my ruling in the matter of guardianship for Lily Cole." Ethan felt Claire lean forward slightly. His throat went dry. "The court finds that Ethan Cole has provided exemplary care for his daughter since his wife's passing. The evidence shows a stable home environment, consistent school attendance, and most importantly, a loving and nurturing relationship between father and daughter." Richard shifted uncomfortably in his seat. The judge continued, her tone growing firmer. While Mr. Richard Whitmore's petition raises concerns about financial resources, this court does not measure parental fitness by the size of one's bank account. Mr. Cole has demonstrated remarkable dedication, working multiple jobs to provide for his daughter's needs. His character references from employers and teachers speak volumes about his integrity and commitment to Lily's well-being. Tears welled in Ethan's eyes. He felt Lily's small hand slip into his. Furthermore, the testimony of Claire Whitmore, speaking against her own family's interests, has particularly impressed this court. Her offer to serve as co-guardian while supporting Mr. Cole's primary custody shows admirable dedication to the child's best interests. The judge paused, looking directly at Richard Whitmore. This court finds no merit in the petition to remove Lily from her father's custody. Therefore, I hereby rule that full custody shall remain with Ethan Cole. A small gasp escaped Claire's lips. Ethan's shoulders sagged with relief. Additionally, the judge continued, I am granting Claire Whitmore's petition for co-guardianship rights as Lily's aunt, with Mr. Cole's blessing. This arrangement will provide Lily with the benefit of both her father's care and her maternal family connection. Richard Whitmore shot to his feet, his face red with anger. This is outrageous! That janitor, Mr. Whitmore, the judge cut him off sharply. My ruling is final. Any further outbursts will result in contempt charges. Richard grabbed his briefcase and stormed toward the exit, his expensive shoes clicking against the floor. The heavy doors slammed behind him, the sound echoing through the courtroom. Lily, finally understanding they had won, let out a squeal of delight. Daddy, we won! She threw her arms around Ethan's neck, nearly knocking him off balance. Ethan hugged his daughter tight, unable to hold back his tears anymore. Yes, baby, we did. Claire moved forward, her own eyes glistening. She reached for Ethan's hand, squeezing it firmly. The touch sent warmth through his entire body. Thank you, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Thank you for sharing her with me. Lily wiggled between them, wrapping one arm around each of their waists. Now we can all be together, she declared with childish certainty. Their lawyer gathered the papers, smiling at the scene. Other people in the courtroom began to file out, some pausing to offer quiet congratulations. The judge watched them with satisfaction before retiring to her chambers. Ethan finally found his voice. Claire, I don't know how to thank you. What you did, standing up to your family like that. She shook her head, still holding his hand. They stopped being my real family a long time ago. This, she gestured to the three of them. This feels more like family than anything I've known in years. Lily tugged at their hands. Can we go get ice cream to celebrate? Ethan laughed, the sound full and free for the first time in weeks. I think that's a wonderful idea, sweetheart. They gathered their belongings, Claire helping Lily with her little backpack while Ethan thanked their lawyer one final time. Together they walked through the courthouse corridors, their footsteps in sync. As they pushed through the heavy front doors, bright sunlight spilled over them. The spring air was sweet, with the scent of nearby flowering trees. Lily skipped ahead down the courthouse steps, her patent leather shoes tapping out a happy rhythm. The sunlight caught Claire's hair, turning it to gold. She paused on the top step, looking out at the city spread before them. Ethan watched her profile, struck by how different she looked from the icy CEO he'd first met in her office. Here, in the warm morning light, she looked softer, more real. Lily called up to them from the bottom of the steps. Come on! The ice cream shop will get crowded. Claire laughed, the sound carrying on the breeze. She turned to Ethan, her eyes bright with joy, and something deeper, something that made his heart skip. The sunlight wrapped around them like a blessing, promising new beginnings and possibilities neither had dared to dream of before. The morning light streamed through the freshly cleaned windows of Whitmore Enterprises, casting a warm glow on Ethan's new office. It wasn't huge, but it was his. A small space with a desk, 2 chairs, and a wall of maintenance schedules. He stood in the doorway, taking it all in, his new badge, reading Facilities Director, catching the sunlight. His work clothes had changed too. Gone was the gray janitor's uniform, replaced by casual business wear khakis and a crisp blue button-down shirt Claire had helped him pick out. He felt different, standing straighter, but his humility remained intact. The maintenance staff, his team now, had welcomed him warmly. They knew him, trusted him, and that made the transition easier. Many had already come to him with ideas for improvements, and he listened to each one carefully, remembering how it felt to be in their shoes. "Someone looks right at home." Claire's voice came from behind him. She leaned against the doorframe, a gentle smile on her face. "Still feels a bit strange," Ethan admitted, adjusting some papers on his desk. "Good strange, though." "You earned this," Claire said firmly. "The board approved your promotion unanimously after seeing your facility improvement proposals. This isn't charity, Ethan. It's recognition of your capabilities." He nodded, grateful for her understanding his need to know he'd earned his position. "Speaking of capabilities, how's Lily doing with her piano practice?" Claire's face lit up. "She's getting better every day. She has your ear for music." Their new routine had fallen into place naturally over the past few weeks. Claire would pick Lily up from school twice a week for piano lessons. Then they'd all have dinner together, sometimes at Claire's elegant apartment, other times at Ethan's modest home. The contrast between their living spaces had stopped mattering somewhere along the way. "Will you join us for dinner tonight?" Claire asked, trying to sound casual but failing to hide her hopefulness. "Wouldn't miss it," Ethan replied, his heart warming at the way her eyes brightened. Throughout the day, they crossed paths several times in meetings, in hallways, in the break room. Each encounter carried an underlying current of something more than friendship, though neither had put it into words yet. The staff noticed but said nothing, except for knowing smiles when the two were seen together. By late afternoon, Ethan had finished his rounds, checked in with his team, and completed his first week of reports. He gathered his things, feeling satisfied with the day's work. Claire met him by the elevator, her briefcase in hand. "Ready to head out?" she asked, pressing the button. In the elevator, they stood closer than strictly necessary, their shoulders almost touching. The air felt charged with unspoken words. "Lily's going to be excited," Claire said softly. "She made something for you in art class today." "Oh? A drawing of the three of us at the piano. Her teacher said she couldn't stop talking about her family music nights." Ethan's throat tightened with emotion. These past weeks had been like a dream, watching Lily blossom under Claire's attention, seeing Claire's corporate facade melt away when she was with them, feeling his own heart heal and grow. They picked up Lily together from the after-school program. She ran to them both, hugging first her father, then Claire, chattering excitedly about her day. The three of them walked to Claire's apartment, Lily between them, holding both their hands and occasionally swinging herself forward. Claire's apartment was warm and inviting now, so different from the stark, showroom-like space it had been months ago. Lily's drawings decorated the fridge, and a family photo from their court victory day sat prominently on the mantel. The grand piano, once covered and silent, now stood proud and well-used in the corner. They made dinner together, a simple pasta dish that Lily helped prepare by tearing lettuce for the salad. The domestic scene felt natural, as if they'd been doing this forever. After dinner, Lily insisted on showing them her progress on the new piece she was learning. As Lily played, Claire and Ethan sat side by side on the couch, their hands finding each other without conscious thought. The simple melody filled the apartment, accompanied by Lily's occasional giggles when she hit a wrong note. When it was time to leave, Lily was drowsy from a full evening of playing and studying. She hugged Claire tightly, mumbling, "Love you, Aunt Claire," into her shoulder. "I'll walk Claire home," Ethan said, then caught himself and laughed softly. "I mean, we're already at your home. I should get this sleepy girl to bed." "Walk me to the door at least?" Claire asked, her voice tender. At the doorway, Lily waited by the elevator, slumped against the wall in that boneless way of tired children. Claire and Ethan stood close, neither wanting the evening to end. "Thank you," Claire whispered, "for sharing your life with me, for letting me be part of your family." "Thank you for showing me I could be more than what I thought I was," Ethan replied softly. The air between them grew still. Claire's hand found its way to Ethan's chest, resting over his heart. He reached up, covering her hand with his own. Slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted, Ethan leaned forward. Claire met him halfway, their lips meeting in a gentle kiss that felt like coming home. It was soft and sweet, full of promise and certainty. When they parted, both were smiling. From the elevator, Lily's tired voice called out, "Finally! Can we go home now, Daddy? I'm sleepy." They laughed, breaking the moment, but not the connection. "Good night, Claire," Ethan said softly. "Good night," she replied, touching his cheek once more before stepping back into her apartment. The grand ballroom of Whitmore Enterprises buzzed with excitement. Elegant flower arrangements adorned every table, and soft lights cast a warm glow across the polished floors. At the center of it all stood Claire's childhood piano, now gleaming like new, its rich mahogany surface catching the light. Claire moved through the crowd of donors and board members with practiced grace, but her usual cool professionalism had softened into something warmer. She wore a deep blue evening gown that sparkled when she moved, and her smile reached her eyes, something that hadn't happened much before Ethan and Lily came into her life. Lily bounced beside her in a matching blue dress, her hair done up in ribbons. "When's Daddy going to play?" she whispered loudly, tugging at Claire's hand. "Soon, sweetheart," Claire answered, squeezing the little girl's hand. She hadn't told Ethan about her plans for tonight. He stood near the refreshment table in his new suit, a gift from Claire he'd finally accepted after much persuasion, talking with some of the maintenance staff he now supervised. The room quieted as Claire stepped up to the microphone. "Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight for the Whitmore Children's Music Foundation benefit." She paused, her eyes finding Ethan's in the crowd. "Tonight is special for many reasons. This piano behind me belonged to my mother, and for years it sat silent and forgotten." A hush fell over the room as Claire continued, her voice growing softer with emotion. "But sometimes the most beautiful music comes from unexpected places. Sometimes the most precious gifts arrive in ways we never imagined." She gestured toward Ethan. "I'd like to invite our facilities director, Mr. Ethan Cole, to play for us tonight." Ethan's eyes widened in surprise. A few confused murmurs rippled through the crowd. The older board members still weren't used to seeing the former janitor in a position of authority. But Lily clapped excitedly, and Claire's encouraging smile drew him forward. As Ethan made his way to the piano, Claire added, "Mr. Cole isn't just an excellent facilities manager. He's the man who brought music back into this building, and into my life." The crowd watched curiously as Ethan settled onto the piano bench. He adjusted his tie nervously, then leaned toward the microphone. "This piece is dedicated to family, faith, and second chances." His eyes met Claire's, then moved to Lily's beaming face. "Sometimes God's greatest blessings come disguised as everyday moments, like finding an old piano that needs fixing." His fingers touched the keys, and the first notes filled the air, gentle, questioning, like dawn breaking. The melody grew stronger, weaving together themes of longing and hope. Every hour he'd spent repairing this piano, every quiet conversation with Claire, every bedtime story with Lily, it all seemed to pour through his hands into the music. Claire pulled Lily close, watching Ethan with shining eyes. The little girl swayed to the music, while Claire found herself fighting back tears. She remembered the first time she'd heard him play, how it had cracked open something in her heart she'd thought was sealed forever. The audience sat transfixed. Even the most skeptical board members couldn't deny the beauty of what they were hearing. The music spoke of loss and discovery, of broken things made whole again. When Ethan reached the final crescendo, the notes soared upward like a prayer of thanksgiving. As the last note faded, there was a moment of profound silence. Then the applause began, building until it filled the entire ballroom. Lily couldn't contain herself any longer. She broke free from Claire's hold and ran toward the stage, her blue dress flying behind her. "Daddy!" she called out, and Ethan scooped her up in his arms as she reached him. Claire followed more slowly, but her face glowed with pride and love. When she joined them on stage, Ethan held out his free hand to her. Together, the three of them faced the applauding crowd and bowed. Ethan still holding Lily, Claire's hand warm in his, their unlikely family finally whole. The lights caught the tears of joy in Claire's eyes as she looked at them both, knowing that sometimes the greatest symphonies start with a simple, unexpected note. The audience continued clapping, but for Ethan, Claire, and Lily, the world had narrowed to just the three of them on that stage, bound together by love, trust, and the healing power of music. The evening sun painted golden streaks across Claire's office, casting long shadows through the floor to ceiling windows. The city lights were just beginning to twinkle in the distance, like scattered stars coming alive one by one. In the corner of the spacious room, Lily sat cross-legged on the plush carpet, surrounded by a rainbow of crayons and papers, her small face scrunched in concentration as she worked on her latest masterpiece. At the piano, Ethan's fingers danced across the keys, playing a gentle melody that seemed to make the very air shimmer. His suit jacket was draped over a nearby chair, a far cry from the janitor's uniform he'd worn when he first touched these keys. The music flowed from him naturally, like a quiet conversation between old friends. Claire sat beside him on the bench, her head resting comfortably on his shoulder. She'd kicked off her heels hours ago, letting the day's formalities slip away. Her eyes were closed, drinking in the peace of the moment. The setting sun caught the diamond ring on her left hand, sending tiny rainbows dancing across the piano's polished surface. "Do you remember the first time you played this piano?" Claire asked softly, not opening her eyes. "I was so angry at first." Ethan's hands never faltered on the keys as he chuckled. "I thought I was going to lose my job. You looked ready to fire me on the spot. Instead, I hired you to fix it." Claire lifted her head to look at him, her eyes soft with memory. "I didn't know you'd end up fixing so much more." The melody shifted, becoming something deeper, richer. "God works in mysterious ways," Ethan said quietly. "I was just trying to keep my head above water back then. Single dad, scraping by. I never imagined all this." From her spot on the floor, Lily looked up. "Daddy, play the song about the rainbow, the one Mommy liked." Ethan's hands stilled for just a moment, then began the requested tune. Claire watched his face, seeing the flash of old grief fade into gentle remembrance. She'd learned to read him so well over these months, the quiet strength in his shoulders, the way his faith carried him through hard moments. "You gave me hope again," Ethan said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Both of you did. When that custody battle started, I was ready to give up everything if it meant Lily would have a better life." Claire reached over and squeezed his hand. "You taught me what a better life really means. It's not about money or position. It's about love and faith and family." She smiled. "My board nearly had collective heart failure when I stood up in that courtroom." Their faces were pretty funny. Lily piped up, abandoning her coloring to skip over to the piano. She wedged herself between them on the bench, making them both scoot to make room. "Especially that grumpy old man with the mustache." Ethan laughed, the sound rich and warm. "Uncle Richard did look like he'd swallowed a lemon whole." "Good," Claire said firmly. "He deserved it after trying to take Lily away." She wrapped an arm around the little girl, pulling her close. "Some things are worth fighting for." Lily reached out and pressed a few random keys, creating a chaotic little tune. "Aunt Claire, remember when you taught me 'Twinkle Twinkle'?" "I do." Claire positioned Lily's small hands correctly on the keys. "Want to play it together?" Ethan shifted over, making more room as Claire guided Lily through the simple melody. The little girl's face lit up with concentration and joy, her fingers carefully picking out each note. When she finished, she beamed with pride. "Now Daddy too," she insisted, and Ethan joined in, adding gentle harmonies that made the simple tune sound like a lullaby. Claire watched them both, her heart so full it ached. How had she lived so long in the cold emptiness of her corporate success, never knowing what she was missing? The music swelled as all three of them played together. Lily's simple melody, Claire's middle harmony, and Ethan's rich bass line weaving it all together. The sound filled the office with warmth and life, echoing off the walls and wrapping around them like an embrace. "I was so lonely before," Claire admitted softly as the song ended. "I didn't even realize how lonely until you started fixing that piano. The music. It woke something up inside me." Ethan turned to look at her, his eyes full of understanding. "Music has a way of healing broken things. Sometimes it's pianos, sometimes it's hearts." "Does that make you a heart doctor, Daddy?" Lily asked innocently, making them both laugh. "Something like that, sweetheart," Claire answered, reaching across to touch Ethan's cheek. She studied his face, the kindness in his eyes, the slight smile that always seemed ready to emerge, the quiet dignity that no amount of hardship had erased. This man who had entered her life as a janitor had shown her what true wealth looked like. It looked like Lily's laughter and bedtime prayers, like family dinners in a tiny apartment and piano lessons that turned into shared confidences, like faith that carried you through dark times and love that asked for nothing but gave everything. Lily started playing Twinkle Twinkle again, her small fingers more confident now. The last rays of sunlight streamed through the windows, turning her hair to gold. Claire watched Ethan, watching his daughter, saw the pride and love shining in his eyes, and felt overwhelmed with gratitude. The music filled the room, simple and pure, while outside the city lights continued to blink on one by one. In this moment, in this office where their story had begun, Claire knew she had found something far more precious than corporate success. She had found her way home. What would you do if you were in their place? Comment your answer below, and let's see how you'd rewrite the ending. If you enjoyed the story of Ethan Cole, I handpicked the next story that you will enjoy. Please don't miss this one. Click here to watch it.